If you're looking to become a first-class rock guitar player, one of the first things that you need to do is totally master your fretboard. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my 5-stage approach to learning the fretboard inside and out that I share with all of my students. So the first thing that you would want to do is make sure that you actually know the notes on the fretboard. So most guitar players will find themselves playing in the key of E minor, something like that. So if you want to be able to find all of the E's all over the neck, for example, like you want to be able to go, straight to them in different places all over your fretboard. The reason that would be so important is because, of course, like if you're playing over E minor, the E notes themselves are going to be the root notes of the scales and the arpeggios and pentatonics and all of the other things that you're going to want to use. So knowing the notes on the fretboard is super important. The next thing that you'd want to get down is interval relationships. So let's say again we're playing in E minor. Anywhere that I'm playing in E, for example, if I'm playing on this E over here, it's really important to be able to see the minor thirds. So G is my minor third, that's a theory thing, but in terms of the visualization, it's over here, or it's over here. So any time that you're playing an E note on the fretboard, let's say if I'm playing this one up here, I want to see the minor third, which is here or here. Or you even want to be able to see it in other octaves like this. So you want to be able to see where those interval relationships are. That is super important. Once you've got your intervals down, the next thing that I would suggest that you learn are triads. Triads are super important because all Western music is based on them. For example, as a beginning guitar player, one of the first things that you probably learned was your E minor chord, and a C major chord, and a G chord, and a D chord, something like that. Those beginner chords are triads. Any triad is just a 3-note entity, okay? So again, sticking with my E minor, anywhere that I'm playing an E root note, let's say on my 5th string, I want to be able to see an entire triad form in a position, or something like this. But something else which is a really important thing to do is to be able to see the inversions of those triads across the neck. So on the top 3 strings, I would play my E minor like this, and like this, and like this, and then that pattern just keeps repeating until I run out of fretboard. So being able to play them like that means that you can use them as a soloist, or you can even use them as a rhythm guitar player if you want to use little funky chops on the top 3 strings. You know, this sort of thing. If you're doing... Of course, I'm only doing those in E minor there, but you can use them in chord progressions if you learn things like your major triads, minor triads, diminished triads, and augmented triads in sets of 3 on any different type of 3 strings, or any 3-note or 3-string grouping. So for example, this 3 here, that's my E minor on the top 3 strings. There it is on the middle 3 strings. Here it is on the A, D, and G. And then of course if I want to take it up here, I could play it on the bottom strings as well. So they can all be used as a rhythm player or as a lead player, and then of course you can take any of them through the inversions along the fretboard this way and that way. So once you've got your triads down, I would then suggest that all guitar players want to learn the caged system. Now before you turn this video off and go, oh, he's talking about the caged system, I don't want to learn about that one. Stick around because I am going to talk about other systems as well. There's just a few reasons why the caged system is super important, and that's whether you play blues, rock, jazz, or anything else. So the cage system is super important because it chunks the fretboard up into 5 positions. Now if we think about the most important thing that you're probably ever going to learn as a guitar player, that would be something like your minor pentatonic scale. Now as I've picked the key of E to get us going, around this part of the neck, my E minor pentatonic scale would look like this. And we're aligning that with this chord, which is a position 2 minor chord. Now if I go to the next position, this is a position 3 E minor chord, and around that I could build an E minor pentatonic, which would look like so. Then if I go to position 4, here's my E minor chord, minor pentatonic scale. And then in position 5, here's my E minor chord, and here's my minor pentatonic scale. Then back up to position 1 in the octave position. So position 1 down here, and then up here. The thing is, what I'm doing there with my cage system is I'm aligning chords and scales with a particular, so I've got like a rhythm tool and I've got a lead tool. That is a super useful thing to have. And if any of you are interested in playing like someone like Jimi Hendrix, for example, that's how he managed to do much of his rhythm style, where he was playing a chord. So you can play a chord and then lead stuff, twiddly bits around the chord. There's lots of other uses for that sort of thing as well, which would just be about fretboard navigation. You can also align with the chords. You can do your 7th chords, you can do your 7th arpeggios, you can do modal scales and way more. I'm going to talk about that stuff now with another system that I really like to use, which is the 3 notes per string system, and this is the 5th stage. So just to recap, I get my students to learn the notes on the fretboard, I get them to learn intervallic relationships, then they want to be learning the triad shapes all up and down the guitar neck. From there you want to learn the cage system, and then we're going to add the 3 notes per string system. Okay, now the 3 notes per string system, again, if I choose my E minor key to be working in, I use the key of E minor in caged chord shapes, but to still around it outline a 3 notes per string shape. So around this particular chord, I would build this scale shape. And that would give me the sound of the E natural minor scale, or the E Aeolian mode. Now there's 7 different shapes of the 3 notes per string scale system for modal scales, and they map out very quickly. If I play them all across the fretboard, they look like this. So once you can get all of those under your fingers, one of the things that's really good about 3 notes per string is that you can start connecting those different areas all over the fretboard. So you may have heard people talking about the 4 notes per string system and stuff like this. How I actually use the 4 notes per string system is I just connect up what I've already learned with the 3 notes per string system. So if I play E minor again, but play like this, here I've just played 4 notes on that string with a slide. So if I continue doing that sort of thing all over the fretboard, I'll get things like this. And that's how I use 4 notes per string to connect up 3 notes per string areas, and that is a system that I use for learning the entire fretboard inside and out, that I use with all of my students. Now if you're looking for more help implementing these kind of concepts into your guitar learning, there are 2 specific ways that I can really help you. The first one is if you check out my digital book series at my Cutting Edge Guitar website. The digital book series contains 500 pages and 500 exercises of all these kinds of concepts to help you learn your fretboard inside and out and perfect your technique. If you are looking for an even more in-depth version of that kind of learning that contains significant online courses, lesson packs, all sorts of Guitar Pro and PDF downloads and way more, consider becoming a member at Cutting Edge Guitar, where you can get access to way more content. I'll drop all of the links to all of that stuff in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you see more lessons like this when they come out, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon.